Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. We welcome you today to the InfoSec webinar on ransomware. I'm Pulika, a cybersecurity professional, and I have with me Abdul.
Thank you very much, Tulika. Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. My name is Abdul Mateen. I am an information security analyst by profession. I work for banking sector. Today, we'll be helping you understand basics of and a little bit of deep type of ransomware. Let's begin, Tulika. Over to you.
Thanks, Abdul. So, in today's session, we wish to cover some key aspects on ransomware. We know the audience is a mix of students, cyber security beginners, and also professionals. So we have tried to keep our content likewise. If you wish to deep dive on any particular topic, we can have a second deep dive session as well. Now, moving on to the next, I'm sure you all must know about InfosecTrain company. It's a security and technology training and consulting company. We have few slides about them also on their achievements, their clients list, and also what is their unique selling proposition, right? And if you wish to know more about them, you may please connect with their support team. They are also in today's session. So let's get started, folks. Before we begin, why ransomware? You tell me which threat has been consecutively listed as the biggest threat for years now? Ransomware. Which has been the single most threat that has affected across sectors? Ransomware. What is the fastest evolving threat? Ransomware. What is the most growing cybercrime? Ransomware. Well, I think I can go on and on why ransomware, but let's get on to the topics. These are the topics we wish to cover today. So we will move to our first topic, facts about ransomware. Now, I'm sure most of you would have heard about ransomware. In simple term, ransomware is a type of malicious software or a malware that prevents you from accessing your computer files, or could be your systems or networks. And for you to get your access back, they demand a ransom in return, and you have to pay that in order to get your file access. Well, it all started in the year 1989, the first ever ransomware attack. It was the AIDS Trojan, which targeted the healthcare industry. It was carried out through a floppy disk, which was delivered through a postal service. It was a simple one, it was a symmetric encryptor, which was used to block the users from accessing their files. Now, due to the simplicity of the virus, the IT specialist could quickly discover a decryption key and they got the access back. They did not have to pay any ransom. However, the major breakthrough was done by Adam Young and Moti Young. They first introduced a terminology or a field called cryptovirology. Well, it is the field that studies how to use cryptography to design powerful and malicious malwares or softwares. This concept was of file encrypting was invented by them, and they presented it in the year 1996 at IEEE Security and Privacy Conference. Now, crypto ransomware, like we know, it started with simple symmetric key cryptography, but it could be decoded easily. So they moved or switched to a symmetric key. So how does it happen, right? There is a antivirus analyst which can see or which can read your public key. contained in the malware. However, the attacker can see the corresponding private key also. Why? Because the key pair has been created by the attacker. Now, this public key, it acts as a trapdoor, one-way operation on the victim file, and it'll encrypt it. And the only way to decrypt is through the attacker's corresponding private key, which can undo this. Now, these kind of attacks can be done through your crypto virus or crypto worm or a crypto Trojan. And one of the preferred methods is the Trojan, right? Now, these kind of attacks have been taking various forms, and one such attack is cryptojacking. I'm sure you would have heard about cryptojacking as well. Now, during cryptojacking attacks, the victims' computers are infected with cryptocurrency mining malware. Now, this malware, it goes inside the victim's laptop or computer. It leverages the computing power of the victim without even their knowledge, and it mines the cryptocurrencies. One such was ProOcean, which was discovered by Palo Alto Networks. Now, there are many variants also which are evolving. So are the types of extortion, and this is an interesting one. So, why is it called triple extortion attack? Your file has been encrypted, it remains inaccessible to you. They demand a ransom, extortion one. The threat actor could say, I would leak your data if you don't pay us the ransom, extortion two. They could also go to the length of threatening you that they will launch a DDoS attack, making it the third extortion, thereby a triple extortion attack. And one of the most used mediums are through emails or through malvertising. You must have seen those advertising coming on certain websites, etc. There could be some mal advertising also, which one has to watch out for. It doesn't end there. There are various variants, but ransomware is now evolving as a service also, where criminals with low technical capabilities can also carry out ransomware attack. Now, these malware can be made available to buyers like you and me, and to quote one such group is Conti Ransomware Group, and they leaked a playbook on how to launch these ransomware attack. Pretty scary, isn't it? Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, which talks about our top trends in ransomware. The first trend, ransomware as a service is increasing, like we mentioned. Let us see how it works. Well, it is a subscription that allows its members to use the ransomware tool. Uh, the beauty of this group is they can also help you extend your reach and making the attack more distributed in nature. So what happens if it is distributed in nature? The authorities would have a hard time to contain it, right? Now, these creators of these tools have started asking for a cut, a percentage on each successful ransom payment. And the average is now 33%, the cut that they demand from any successful ransom payment. The second trend, the focus is on weak industries. Now, cyber attackers have been taking advantage of industries that are badly hit by pandemic, such as your healthcare sectors, your educational facilities, your government institutions, and one of the methods is your remote connections, remote corporate connections. Now, personal devices of high net worth individuals are also being targeted by these kind of attackers. Third, targeting managed service providers. Now, why managed service providers, we might think? Well, if you attack one managed service provider, mind you, it can open up doors to many of its clients. Hence, they target managed service providers also. And one of the sweet spot, or should say vulnerable spot, is through the remote access tools that are generally poorly secured or configured. The fourth trend that we see are there are various new and evolving variants, right? There has been a massive increase in the number of variants, and the complexities are also evolving. So are the defense techniques. Few of the companies have also started using heuristic or behavioral analysis along with AI and ML to detect these kind of future events or predict, the predictive analytics, you may say. The fifth trend that we see, targeting your mobile devices. Now, mobile ransomware variants are also on the increase. What they do, they simply make your device unusable, and you have to pay a ransom in order to use it again. Well, these were the trends. Let's move to the types and techniques. Though there are many variants like we discussed, but majorly they are categorized into four types. And out of these four types, again, the two are primarily used. First is your encrypting ransomware. This is the typical encrypting technique that we discussed, where to decrypt or redeliver a ransom needs to be paid. Screen lockers, it restricts your login or your file access, and it will also disable your basic computer functions, and it operates at a operating system level. Third one, your scareware, and as the name suggests, it's just to scare you. There could be a malicious software created just to make a false claim about viruses infecting your files or your computer device, and a payment is demanded in return to fix the falsified issues. One of the general techniques is a pop-up message would keep coming up on your screen that your laptop is affected, and you have to make a payment in order to get rid of it. Fourth, the doxware or the leakware. Here, it will threaten that the group will distribute your sensitive or personal data if the ransom is not paid. And there are individuals who can go to any extent to pay any amount in order to get preventing their data to be leaked in public. Now, we spoke about this four methods. Let's visit some of the variants. Um, I'm sure you must have heard about Bad Rabbit. It was distributed via a fake Adobe Flash update, which was there on a corrupt website. So if you visit any rogue website, there could be fake Adobe Flash updates, and once this is downloaded, it can compromise your data in an instant. CryptoWall, this malware, it hides in your zip files and other email attachments, and then it makes the way to your devices. Once you install them, it tries to find Java vulnerabilities to encrypt and withhold your data. Petya, again, it's a crypto ransomware. This virus, it targets your Windows servers, your laptops or PCs, and mostly it takes advantage of your SMB, your server message block, and it tries to steal your credentials, and that's how it spreads into your machine. WannaCry, It made cried a lot of people I know. It was first seen in a large-scale crypto ransomware attack that took place in the year 2017, and it affected almost a quarter million machines internationally. How it worked was it spread through your Windows operating system. Blackbyte, again, one of the notorious variants, it had compromised multiple US and foreign businesses, which included at least three US critical infrastructure sectors. What it does is it encrypts your files on compromised Windows host systems, including your physical and your virtual servers. Pretty scary, right? So just see, and how these techniques have been evolving, how mature, and how they have been coming with these kind of variants. It's a combination of the four types that we saw above, right? And that's how they kind of have been spreading their wings. Moving on to the next section, which is certain interesting statistics. I was going through this interesting website, and I thought I'll share it with you. Graph 1. The average ransom payment has increased gradually over the years. And interestingly, hackers tend to duplicate successful attacks and hit the victims over and over again. How do they do it? Because you don't learn from your mistakes. Simple. You don't patch your systems even if you are hit by the victims, and it has in fact happened, right? Moving on to graph 2. Most companies, they have experienced data loss and major downtime as a result of these kind of ransomware attack. And if you see at the overall cost of ransomware caused downtime, it has doubled in recent years. Graph 3. More sophisticated strains are on the rise, like we discussed, and WannaCry is one of them. And there are many others also that are listed. I don't want to call them out. Graph 4, there is a rise of attacks on the SaaS-based applications. Graph 5, Windows OS are being targeted frequently. The reason, of course, is Windows are primarily or typically used more, but it is also because of the necessary updates aren't done on the operating systems, which leads to them become very vulnerable section. Graph 6, emails are the main method for all types of cyber attacks, and people are still falling victims to your malicious social engineering. Lack of training in basic cybersecurity practices, you're using your weak password, lack of proper access management, poor awareness are also the key reasons. Graph 7. If you look, even the countries with access to most advanced security technologies and considerable higher awareness are also falling victims to these kind of digital extortion. Graph 8. This is where we have to watch out. Individual users and businesses will continue to be targeted, and URLs embedded in emails will still remain the #1 way of computers to become infected. In my opinion, the best defense against ransomware is for users to learn what it is, how it infects a computer, and also what to do once it happens. Well, let's move on to our next segment, and I'll have my colleague Abdul to take you through the same. Over to you, Abdul.
Thank you very much, Tulika. All right, I see there are a couple of questions coming in the chat box. I I have few more questions for you guys based on what you have heard so far about ransomware. What do you know? And maybe a few questions from what Tulika just mentioned or discussed. Now, I have a couple of questions. Let me see the answers coming in the chat box. The first question I have is, what is the largest payout ever made? You have been reading the news, you have been hearing about ransomware, you also have been hearing about the money. What do you think is the largest ransom given by any organization to the attackers? Any guesses in the chat box? All right, yeah, no problem. Okay, I see an answer coming in. Emails. All right, yeah, we were talking about the numbers. The highest amount which was paid by an organization was by an insurance company. They paid $40 million. Now, this is the number which they paid. There were requests to pay 70 million, 100 million as well, but insurance company paid $40 million. And what do you think is the average amount paid so far? Worldwide, that's worldwide. Any numbers? Okay, that's almost 200,000. $200,000 is the approximate amount which has been paid by organizations or individuals in few instances. Now, every time there's a ransomware attack, there is a downtime which is caused by the company. Now, it, it depends based on the company or based on the sophistication of the attack. 21 days is the approximate number of you know downtime a company faces whenever they are attacked with ransomware. What do you think, or which organization was the largest hit in the healthcare industry? Any idea? Feel free to write in the chat box. Wow, Karthik, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, it's Anthem breach. 80 million people were affected. Like it's so huge. Ireland, Anthem breach. Good guys, keep them coming. All right, I have fewer questions for you. What are the most common ransomware attack tactics? I believe everybody should be able to answer this. Yes, Venkata. Yes, Sumit. Keep them coming. You have been listening so far very keenly. Thank you very much, guys. Phishing campaigns. And which is the uh, highest affecting variant? Any idea? God, it's Loki. You were close, Santosh. And they made a lot of money as well. $2 million is a huge amount, boss. Moving ahead, what do you think FedEx paid when they were attacked by Petya? Not Petya, sorry. Any guess? Random guess? $1 million. Grand Crab. They were affected twice, I guess. They paid $300 million. Oh, I guess no. I think it's $300,000. They were requested. They were asked for $300 million, but it's off the records how much they paid. And who is that one individual who paid the ransom of $4.4 million? Any number, any name. Is the CEO of Colonial Pipeline. Now, who knows the Colonial Pipeline hack here? Yes, maybe in the chat box. Yes. Colonial Pipeline was attack on the oil sector of South America, southern part of the United States. On it was an operational technology attack. And what is the most common type of attack in India? Most common ransomware in India, you might have heard in the headlines. Stop DJU, I'm not sure about it. Any other? Most common type of ransomware? It's crypto ransomware, the categories of crypto ransomware. Wherein they use to mine cryptocurrency. And one last one, which is the largest, which are the top three ransomwares commonly seen? Dharma, I don't think Patal it's Dharma. These are the ones. It can go on forever and ever, right? Now, you have been hearing about ransomware in India, in the news, in the pop-up messages, people messaging each other, that was attacked, this was attacked, and we just saw, what are the numbers people are asking for and how much people are paying out, how people are being victimized. Do you guys think we can do anything about it? If you think that we can protect ourselves from being victimized, type a Y or S in the chat box. If you think no, we cannot, we just have to suffer always, type a no, please. Yes, yes, regular backups, great one, Sumit. Okay, I see two yeses. Maybe rest disagree with me. Awareness, okay, great. Yes, guys, indeed, we can protect ourselves from this. It's cybercrime is just like a normal crime, right? A normal crime which happens. Unfortunately, this is happening too. Now there are a couple of countermeasures or the defense mechanisms which we can implement in order to save ourselves. Now I have a bunch of here, have a couple of them. Now these are not the only countermeasures we can implement. These are the most common ones we should be implementing in order to save ourselves from these issues, right? Okay, I see. I thank you very much, guys. Thank you for keeping the chat lively. Now, to begin with, the very first line of defense is the network defense. You prevent the network. You implement the first line of defense at the network level, or implementing network security is the most important part. Now, firewalls are the most reliable ones to do that. Absolutely, we do have mail security, which we have to implement, user education, lot of things. But the very first thing is a firewall. If my firewall does not allow a malicious web request, my users will not get a malicious request. If I implement a email security gateway or email security solution, my users will not get any malicious email or anything as such. But if my firewall fails, I should also have backup plans, because who knows about log4j vulnerability here? Anybody? Yes, Sumit. I see Sumit is very much active in the chat box. Muthu, please. Yes. Let's hear from other guys as well. Even if you don't know, just type yes. Maybe you'll know after this slide. Okay. Now, implementing strong firewalls is important, but what happened recently was there was a vulnerability in the Apache web server which was being exploited in the wild, and it was firstly executed in a game. I forgot the game's name. That vulnerability got transferred or shifted from just being exploiting the game servers to the actual corporate servers, right? Now, what if basically the firewalls didn't knew about the vulnerability? So people who hadn't patched the firewalls, or whose firewalls were not aware of it, they started exploiting. Now, me being a security analyst, I believe we saw almost 3,000 alerts in span of 1 week after we implemented the countermeasures, implemented the appropriate rules and all. We saw almost 3,000 attempts to exploit log4j on my clients computers which are facing web. So we have to make sure that our firewalls are up to date. Now, once things pass through firewall, for example, if an email passes through my email security gateway and the firewall as well, if my user is unaware of potential phishing emails, because phishing email is the go-to method of ransomware at attackers. That is the only, I would say, the only method they use to exploit any networks or any organization for that matter. So keeping our users posted, teaching them on regular basis is important. There is a company who does training on phishing attacks. Anybody know about it? It's from a famous hacker. Anybody know about it? You might have attended trainings from that in your organization. I'm just writing it in the chat box. It's called Know Before. KnowBe4 is a company by Kevin Mitnick. He was he's one of the most notorious hacker ever known. He started his early days from phishing the telephones, and FBI had to search for him a lot. Right now, there are trainings from these companies which make your user aware that what is a phishing, what to look for if you're receiving an email from an unsuspected user. Now, execution of macros is the most popular one wherein people get exploited, right? Now, what happens is the moment, for example, let's say there was a malicious document in the email one of your user received, and he is unaware if it is legitimate document or not. He opens the document, and unfortunately, macros are enabled in your organization. Now, just for the sake of being on the same page, macros are small code blocks which get executed automatically background in the background, especially when you have this Office applications. It's based on Visual Basic. They get executed automatically. Now, these codes are written in such a way that they exploit any existing vulnerabilities in the computers, right? And then we also have to make sure that our web security is most intact. Who here knows about the cross-site scripting attack? Yes. Now, cross-site scripting attack is the go-to method, I would say, because if if your computer or if your browser is vulnerable to any particular attack, who here read that Chrome is infected with 0-day and millions of devices are vulnerable? I think 3-4 days ago there was a headlines in the news, right? What happens is these type of vulnerabilities of the browsers are exploited by visiting any malicious website. For example, there is a well-known chef in UK known as Jamie Oliver. Anybody is aware of him? His well-known chef. What happened was his website was being visited by almost thousands of people, and his website was vulnerable. What happened was everyone visiting his website, there was a malicious code being downloaded in the background. This is why implementing web security is so important. If your user is visiting a website which is malicious and he is unaware that this website is being exploited in the background, indirectly your computers will be infected, right? This one you can do by you can implement web security by implementing a WAF, and you can disable ads which prevent malvertising and a lot of things. Moving ahead, as I saw earlier in the chat, implementing least privileges is the most important part. For example, let's say your front office executive has administrative rights on that particular computer. Do you think it's a good idea? Who here thinks that giving the front office executive or the guy who prints your printouts at work should have administrative rights, right? Everybody agrees that they should not have, but there are certain organizations which do have by mistake. As earlier someone mentioned, configurations is important, right? Yeah, exactly. Rule-based access control, as Sumit has mentioned, RBAC is most important one, because you have to give access to people only to perform their activity, not the entire access. This is part of defense in depth, implementing defense in depth strategy. Moving ahead, we also have to make sure that we we segment the networks appropriately. Now, for example, HR department is the one who receives most of external emails, document files, PDF files when compared to software development department. Do you think both guys should be on the same network to implement high security? What do you think? Yes, exactly. Because if HR receives a malicious email and he or she clicks and they the malware gets, it starts spreading in the environment. It's bad for everybody. For example, Wipro was part of the MSSP attack. They call it as supply chain attack. Anyone aware of it? Wipro, one of the most known organization in India, they were part of supply chain attack. They were infected only because some other person of some other team had clicked some URL which led to slowly people coming in and creeping in the network. Right? If had they segmented the network, I think they would have prevented this. Right? So is the importance of network segmentation. And moving ahead, who here works in information security as a security analyst? Anybody here works in SOC, they call it as Security Operations Center? Anybody? Okay, I don't think anybody is here. The idea here is that we sit and monitor 24/7, literally 24/7, even on vacations, even on the weekends, in the middle of the night, we sit. I work in such a team. I'm a security analyst. I work for SOC, right? What we do is we sit and monitor alerts 24/7. Yes, a user named Lenovo has said 24/7. We sit and monitor day in, day out. Now, what we look for is the most critical one. We do not look anything. We do not look for anything and everything. We try to modify things. We try to fine tune things as and when attacks occur. For example, when I mentioned earlier that we observed 3,000, almost 3,000 log4j attempts, the moment sorry guys, the moment we figured out that log4j is being exploited, we implemented alerts and security measures to block the attempt and notify us so that we could take further more steps and investigate on that particular source or IP address. Right? With all this, implementing disabling macros, implementing strong firewall policies, educating the user, implementing web security, giving least privileges, segmenting the network. With all this, do you think I am safe from the network? I'm sorry, safe from the attack? The user with Lenovo writes a big no. Yes, yes, yes. Nishchita, absolutely, we are not secure. There's a popular term in cybersecurity. It's not about how you will be attacked. It's about when you will be attacked. Even organizations with highest security are compromised. For example, who knows about the Sony Pictures hack? I mean, like, do you think Sony Pictures had least security? Sony Pictures, Equifax, one of the largest hack ever in history, uh, uh, a ransomware attack on National Health Services of UK. Everybody got attacked. So as I said, it's not about how, it's about when. So for this, we should have an action plan. What if something goes wrong? What should we do? We should be ready. We should, uh, if uh, if anybody here has, if anybody here knows Sansu, he is a Chinese philosopher. He has 48 powers, loss of power, or something like that. One of the law he said is knowing more about your enemy is more important. You have to know more about your enemy. In that, preparing for that comes into picture. Now, as I mentioned, we should have a plan, right? We should have a plan what to do if things go wrong. Now, let's consider things went wrong. Let's consider things went wrong, and what should I do? Now, there is an organization called as National Institute of Security Standard. National Institute for Security. Sorry, I forgot the abbreviation, but NIST. Who knows about NIST? It's an American organization. It's a American government's department. Okay, no problem. NIST. Yes, cybersecurity framework. Yeah, NIST has a framework which says that boss, if you are, if at all you are affected, follow these steps to ease your pain in hard times. Now, what I mean by that is, if you are infected, what should you do in order to come out of that problem easily without much headache? They have defined 4 steps. Now, the first step is preparation. As I mentioned earlier, we should plan. Planning is part of countermeasure. It's the same thing here. You should be prepared whom to contact. For example, you log in at 4:30 in the morning, you see that there is a ransomware note, or you're unable to log in. What do you think? You will log out and go home? What do you think? What do you think you should do for the first time? I'm asking you in terms of security, not in terms of a regular user. Any idea? Any comment is fine. Perfect. What I would do is I would call my manager immediately. I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't take 1 extra second to call him. I'll call him immediately because that is part of the action plan. Then my manager will take it forward. He will tell me to investigate more about it. He will tell me to call other people, right? Being prepared is the most important part. Now, when we are prepared, okay, we are prepared. If things go wrong, okay, fine. But what if I don't know I'm infected? That's where I implement the detection strategies. For example, I told that we monitor the network 24/7. This comes under detection. You sit and wait for if anything happens, let me respond. That is first thing. Any other thing would be, I mean, like, do you have any other point wherein this detection comes into picture? Any other method of detecting malicious activities? No problem. Vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, implementing, yes, I don't know, frequent checks. All these are the methodologies implement you should implement in order to detect things. Yes, VAPT. I'm not sure what NIPS is. Sumit, if you could elaborate, that would be great. Implementing, for example, AV is checking, scanning your computers in the background actively. You run monthly scans, weekly scans. Some organizations do daily scans as well, right? And once you have found it, and it's not only that you find it passively, you will find, for example, let's say many files are being renamed at once. Do you think it's a normal activity? No, it is not. For example, a user who is barely using Windows or Microsoft Office, any particular application of Microsoft Office, he renames 20 files at once within 2 minutes. It's uncommon. Now, these detections are performed by the UEBA, user, uh, I'm sorry, UABA, right? End user behavior analytics, I believe. And basically, you understand the behavior of the user over a period of time and detect if there is any malicious thing. A few organizations go on and extend to monitor the traffic at packet level. So these are the detection mechanisms you implement. Once you find it, for example, let's say the one of a, one user's computer, we found that a user renamed 20 files at once. What we do is we go and investigate what happened. Why all of a sudden you are doing this? Now this is my analysis section. Or a user's computer is infected. What I do is I isolate it from the network in order to prevent itself from spreading. Yes, Muthu, a detection mechanism also includes a user downloading bulk files, right? And once I have analyzed it, and I have, for example, let's say I analyze and I found that indeed it is a malicious software, or in our, for the case of discussion, ransomware. What will I do? The very first thing, as I said, I will isolate it and put it in a lab environment where I can understand things. Now, this containment, eradication, and recovery stage, I would like to help you understand by relating it to the current situation of COVID. When unfortunately a person is infected, what are we doing them? We are isolating them, right? We are putting them in a room, a separate room. What we are doing, that is the containment stage. Then we take a sample of their saliva from the nose. Exactly. I would say, Aruna, sandboxing in our analogy would be to putting a user in one room where he is unable to meet other people in house, so that it does not spread. Then what we do is we medicate him, we give him medicine and all in order to eradicate the infection. It's almost the same. I'm just trying to correlate things so that things are easy for you guys. Then comes his recovery stage. Once he's clean, once he is recovered, I'm sorry, once his infection is gone, we give him extra foods, right? We give him, for example, high energy foods in order for him to come back to stage. Now, in terms of ransomware, what we do is we isolate the computer, we analyze, we take a forensic image of that particular computer and try to understand what went wrong, where it went wrong, and then we eradicate. For example, let's say if there was a privilege escalation vulnerability exploited, I will go ahead and patch that particular vulnerability, right? That is the eradication phase. Recovery is I will re-image that particular system or implement a new firewall device in order to come back up to life. With all this happening, what I do next is a post-incident activity. Now, post-incident activity is the most important one because does anyone know here does anyone know of an organization which was infected twice by the same ransomware and by the same actor? Any idea? Yes. Right. So what happened was there was an organization which was infected once. I'm unable to recall the name. It was ransomware. Now this organization, they paid the ransom. They got, fortunately, they got all the details back, or everything they got back. They got the recovery key. But after 3 months or so, it was affected by same ransomware and apparently by the same actor. What do you think was the reason? Any wild guess? Any guess is fine. Exactly, Santosh. This, yeah, post-incident mitigation plan was not implemented, correct? But had they implemented the plan, it would have been great. Post-attack phase wasn't dealt with clarity exactly. Now, as Sumit mentioned, I'm sorry, not Sumit, as Santosh mentioned, they did not patch the vulnerability which was exploited by the attacker and they were ransomware. Now, the second time, it was so funny. I'm unable to recall the name of organization. The ransomware actors left a note stating that we came back only because you did not patch. And I'm not beating around the bush. It's a true story, right? Now, so is the importance of implementing post-incident activity. Now, post-incident activity is also known as lessons learned. And this what happens is you analyze where we went wrong. For example, to eradicate a threat, you found out there is a vulnerability. You patch that in not only in that system, in entire network, right? And you see, oh, okay, this everything started because one of our user clicked on a phishing URL. You go train people again. Then then you will see that okay, though it is a phishing, there was a phishing email. My email security gateway did not look into it. I will have to either change the email security gateway option or patch even its vulnerability or its weakness, right? So you do all this in the post-incident activity. You actually look back how it went wrong and cover your tracks or try save yourself. All right. Now, this is the framework designed by NIST. In the same lines, we have a framework designed by the popular institute called as SANS. Who here knows SANS? Training Institute? Yes. Now, these guys set a lot of standards for cybersecurity organization. I'm sorry. Yes, organizations to be cyber secure. They call it as SANS Incident Response Plan. It is also in the same lines. Says prepare, identify, containment, eradication. Now, when you compare the response plan of NIST and SANS, only the naming convention changes. Everything is same, but SANS has a different way of putting things and giving examples, right? Now, these both are same. I do not want to cover the same thing again.